He found a dying German shepherd alone in the forest, its body broken, its eyes pleading. But the real shock came days later, when men in suits arrived, calling the dog classified property. What was hidden in this animal's past would ignite a fight that stunned the entire nation. The woods behind Liam's farmhouse had always been his escape, a quiet place where the world faded away and only the sound of rustling leaves and birdsong remained. On that particular afternoon, the sun filtered through the trees in soft golden rays, and everything seemed peaceful. But then, a sound shattered the calm, a faint, broken whimper, barely audible, carried through the trees. Liam stopped in his tracks, heart thudding. It wasn't a bird or a squirrel. It sounded like crying. He followed the sound, weaving through dense brush and brambles until he saw it. A German shepherd, tied tightly to a tree with a thick rope cutting into its neck. The dog was thin, dirty, barely conscious, its body trembling with exhaustion. Its eyes flicked up weakly as Liam stepped closer, not with fear, but with the last flicker of hope. The rope had rubbed its fur raw. Whoever left him there hadn't planned on coming back. Liam dropped to his knees. "Hey buddy, it's okay," he whispered. He didn't know who had done this or why, but one thing was certain. He wasn't leaving this dog behind. Not like this. Liam didn't waste a second. He sprinted through the woods, branches slapping against his arms as he pushed toward home. Bursting through the front door, he shouted for his dad. "There's a dog. He's hurt bad, tied to a tree." His father, startled at first, didn't hesitate. Within minutes, they had a knife, water bottles, and an old blanket bundled in the truck. Liam led the way back, his chest tight with urgency. When they returned to the tree, the dog hadn't moved. His breathing was shallow, his head barely lifted. Liam's father approached slowly, speaking softly. "Easy, boy. We're here to help." As he cut the rope, the dog winced but didn't growl or flinch. It was as if he knew he was being saved. The thick rope fell to the ground, and the dog slumped, too weak to stand. They gently lifted him into the truck bed, wrapping him in the blanket. Liam sat beside him, one hand on the dog's chest. "Hang in there, buddy," he whispered. "You're not alone anymore." As the engine roared to life, neither of them looked back at the tree, only forward, toward hope. The drive to the animal clinic felt like the longest 40 minutes of Liam's life. Every bump in the road made the dog groan softly, each sound cutting through Liam's heart. He kept whispering words of comfort, even though he wasn't sure the dog could hear him. When they arrived, the vet techs rushed out with a stretcher. Dr. Mason, the town's only veterinarian, took one look at the dog and grimaced. "He's in critical shape. We'll do everything we can." Inside, machines beeped, IVs dripped, and Liam watched helplessly through the glass as the team worked. The dog was dangerously dehydrated, covered in ticks, with ribs pressing against stretched skin. "He might not make it through the night," Dr. Mason warned. Liam felt the words hit like a punch, but he refused to give up. "He made it this far," he said quietly. "He just needs a little more help." That night, Liam refused to leave the clinic. He curled up on the cold tile floor outside the recovery cage, eyes never leaving the dog's motionless body. As the machines clicked steadily and the night deepened, Liam whispered, "Please stay. You're not just some dog. You're my friend now." By morning, against all odds, the dog was still alive. He hadn't moved much, but his breathing had stabilized. Liam sat up, stiff from the cold floor, and rushed to the cage. The dog opened one eye and let out a weak sigh. Dr. Mason smiled. "He made it through the worst. He's a fighter." Over the next few days, the dog slowly began regaining strength. He ate in small bites, drank cautiously, and never once barked. But something about him stood out. He was alert, observant, and eerily quiet. As Dr. Mason cleaned the dog's wounds, he noticed a series of small scars along his flank. Clean, deliberate incisions that didn't match any natural injury. "These aren't from an animal fight," he muttered. "They look surgical." He also found a faded tattoo on the dog's inner ear and a metal fragment embedded near his shoulder blade, possibly part of a tag or the chip, too damaged to scan. This wasn't an ordinary stray. Liam named him Shadow because he followed silently and moved like a ghost. But beneath his calm nature, there was a question burning in everyone's mind. Who tied Shadow to that tree, and why? As the days turned into weeks, Shadow transformed. His once sunken eyes gained a quiet sparkle, and the limp in his step began to fade. But what changed most wasn't physical. It was emotional. He followed Liam everywhere, always a few silent paces behind, like a second shadow. He didn't bark, didn't whine. He simply stayed close, always watching, always waiting. Liam noticed that Shadow never rested unless he was nearby, and he never let Liam out of sight. Shadow began sleeping outside Liam's bedroom window, curled up beneath the ledge like a guardian. When Liam walked to the bus stop, Shadow followed and waited patiently until the bus returned. No leash ever needed, no commands ever spoken. Just understanding. He didn't act like a normal dog. He acted like he'd done this before, like he'd been trained to protect. Liam didn't care about the mystery anymore. To him, Shadow wasn't a question to be solved. He was a friend, a protector. A piece of his life that had quietly filled a space he didn't know was empty. It was a calm Saturday afternoon when a black SUV rolled up the gravel driveway. Two men stepped out, both dressed in dark suits, wearing sunglasses, and holding clipboards. Liam's father met them on the porch, cautious. "Can I help you?" he asked. One of the men gave a polite but practiced smile. "We're looking for a dog, recently found, large male German shepherd, possibly injured." Liam, watching from the window, felt his stomach twist. Shadow, lying on the porch beside him, slowly stood and stepped behind Liam like he sensed something off. Liam's dad narrowed his eyes. "There are a lot of strays in these woods. What's this about?" The agents exchanged a glance. "Let's just say he's special. If you've seen anything, we'd appreciate your cooperation." Liam's father didn't flinch. "Sorry, can't help you." The agents left a card and walked back to their vehicle without argument, but their eyes lingered on the house a second too long. That night, Shadow didn't sleep. He stood by Liam's window, body tense, ears perked. At midnight, he growled, a low, haunting sound that woke Liam instantly. Someone was watching them. The next morning, Liam's father called Dr. Mason. "You ever seen anything like this before?" he asked, relaying the visit from the men in suits. The vet grew quiet. "Actually, I've been doing some digging." He explained that the metal fragment found in Shadow wasn't ordinary. It matched a military-grade identification chip used in classified K-9 programs. "He's not just a dog," Dr. Mason said. "He's a trained asset, and someone clearly wants him back." Later that day, the SUV returned. This time, the agents didn't knock. They waited outside their vehicle, arms crossed. Liam, standing on the porch with Shadow, watched as the dog growled low, positioning himself between Liam and the driveway. "He remembers them," Liam whispered. His father stepped outside to confront the agents. "He's not going anywhere," he said firmly. "He's with my son now." One of the agents stepped forward. "That dog is government property. He's dangerous, unpredictable." But as he spoke, Shadow didn't lunge or bark. He stayed perfectly still, loyal, protective, calm, dangerous, number. Not unless you threatened the boy he had chosen to protect. Word spread quickly through the small town. Whispers turned into heated conversations. Some neighbors were stunned, others were afraid. "A military dog?" one shopkeeper muttered. "What if he snaps?" Another, an elderly veteran, shook his head. "That dog's not a threat. He's just looking for peace." The tension grew until the mayor called for a community meeting at the town hall. Everyone had something to say, but no one really knew the full story. At the meeting, Liam stood quietly at the back with Shadow at his feet. The crowd parted as Dr. Mason took the stage. "I've treated hundreds of animals," he began, "and I've never seen one like him. Whatever his past, that dog isn't a weapon anymore. He's a survivor, and frankly, a hero." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Some still looked uneasy, but others nodded. They had seen the way Shadow watched over Liam, the way he never acted aggressively without reason. The town stood at a crossroads, fear the unknown, or protect the bond they had witnessed firsthand. A few days later, a dark sedan pulled into the driveway, this time not just with agents, but with legal documents. They had a court order to reclaim Shadow. Liam stood on the porch, fists clenched, heart pounding. Shadow sat beside him, unmoving but alert. One agent stepped forward. "We're taking the dog now. Please step aside." Liam's father began to protest, but Liam raised his voice, loud and clear. "Number? You're not taking him?" His voice cracked, but his eyes held firm. As the agent stepped closer, Shadow rose slowly, placing himself between Liam and the men. He didn't growl. He didn't lunge. He just stood, tall, calm, and unmistakably ready to defend. That's when the sheriff's truck pulled in. Sheriff Reed, a longtime family friend, stepped out and held up a hand. "You're not taking anything until the court hears from this town," he said. "You want a fight, you'll have one." The agents froze, clearly unprepared for pushback. Liam stepped down, one hand on Shadow's back. "He's not your property. He's my family." And in that moment, the boy who once found a dying dog in the woods became his voice, his shield, and his protector. The story didn't stay local for long. A reporter from a nearby city caught wind of the boy who defied federal agents to protect his dog. The article went viral overnight. Thousands of comments poured in, people from all over the country praising Liam's courage and calling for Shadow to stay home. And every time someone asked Liam, "Is that the dog from the woods?" he would smile and nod proudly. "Yeah," he'd say, patting Shadow's head. "That's him, but he didn't just survive, he saved me too."